Hello everyone, today we are back with another solo challenge. This time we will be attempting to complete Pokemon Emerald with only a Zangoose. Zangoose's standout stats are his incredible base 115 attack and his good base 90 speed. It can also learn a lot of great TMs like Brick Break and Shadow Ball. For this run, I chose to replace Trico with Zangoose so that May will get the partial fighting type Blaziken. While fighting the gym trainers in Rustboro, Zangoose learned Swords Dance, one of his best moves. I challenged the gym fight, not envisioning much of a challenge. She started off with Geodude and I tried setting up 3 Swords Dances. She used a Defense Curl while I was setting up, but a plus 5 quick attack still did way less than I was expecting. The Geodude proceeded to knock me out and I lost the fight. I figured since Zangoose was fully evolved that I wouldn't have much trouble, but I was mistaken. There are no TMs currently available that Zangoose can learn, so I have to level up a bit for this fight. At level 15, I attempted the fight again. First was Geodude, and I set up 3 Swords Dances once again. At this new level, the Geodude's Rock Tomb didn't do nearly as much damage. After setting up, a couple quick attacks finished the first Pokemon off. Next was another Geodude, and a few quick attacks took care of her. Finally was Nosepass, and I didn't have much health left. However, Roxanne was very nice and only used one attacking move. 4 quick attacks later, and we obtained our first gym badge. A surprisingly difficult fight for sure. Next was Brawley. I set up 2 Swords Dances against the Machop while he used a bulk up boosted Karate Chop that did more than half. But then I started attacking and one-shot his whole team. This is how I was expecting the first gym to go like. Then I headed towards Slateport City. At level 19 I replaced Scratch with Slash. Now we have a 70 base power stab move with an increased critical chance. This is much better than the 40 power of Scratch. As if we were not powerful enough, I also obtained the Silk Scarf from Dewford Town and gave it to our Zangoose. I think the next rival fight is going to be a breeze. May starts with Wingull, who gets decimated by 1 slash. Next is Combusken, who lived the slash but only used focus energy. May does not heal, and Combusken falls to another slash. Finally, Lombre remains, and he got one shot by a slash. So far, every fight, excluding Roxanne, has been incredibly easy. At Watson's gym, I replaced Fury Cutter with Pursuit. I learned this just to counter Ghost-type Pokemon. With the revamped moveset, I challenged Watson. First was Voltorb, and I took this time to set up 1 Swords Dance. The Voltorb landed a critical spark, but I avoided getting paralyzed. I slashed the Voltorb back into its Pokeball. Next is Electrike, who fell to 1 slash. Against Magneton, Slash does about half, but the Magneton paralyzed me with Thunder Wave. I avoided getting fully paralyzed the following turn, and knocked out the Magneton with another slash. Finally is Manectric, and it used Howl. I broke through Paralysis once again and one-shot Watson's ace. I got pretty lucky with Paralysis in that fight. Then I went and challenged Maxie for the first time. The Mightyena used Sand Attack while I used 1 Swords Dance. My first slash missed, and the Mightyena went for another Sand Attack. My second slash attempt landed and knocked the Mightyena out. Against the Zubat, I got greedy. Instead of attacking, I went for a second Swords Dance. The Zubat used Supersonic, and I proceeded to hit myself twice in a row. Because of the attack boost from Swords Dance, the confusion damage took half of my HP. I did not think I would lose a battle to a Zubat in this run. The second attempt started the same. I went for Swords Dance and the Mightyena used Sand Attack. However, this time I hit my first slash and knocked out the Mightyena. Against Zubat, I attacked instead of using Swords Dance and one-shot it. Camerupt met the same fate. We got lucky by not missing any of our moves that attempt. Flannery was next, and she started with Numel. I set up 1 Swords Dance while the Numel did minimal damage with Takedown. I then knocked out the rest of her Pokemon with Slash without much issue. Torkoal did tank a +2 slash, but Flannery used Body Slam instead of Overheat for some reason. We now have half of the gym badges. Now it was time to fight Norman. Spindo was a one-shot with Slash, but Slacking immediately followed. I was worried about him using Yawn, so I went straight for Slash instead of setting up. The Slacking used Counter instead and nearly knocked me out. A Fin Attack on his next attacking turn finished me off. Before my next attempt, I gave Zangoose the Chesto Berry so I wouldn't have to worry about Yawn. This time I set up against the Slacking. I used Swords Dance 3 times to max out my attack, and the Slacking kept using Counter and failing. Now I started attacking and swept the rest of his team with Slash. The Slacking was the only real threat, and his other Pokemon are very weak in comparison. The rival fight against May on Route 119 was a sweep. I set up 1 Swords Dance against the Pelipper, and one-shot the whole team. Her team was pretty underleveled, so I only needed 1 Swords Dance to sweep her entire team. The Fortree Gym Leader started with Swablu, who fell to 1 slash. Next was Tropius, and I used this opportunity to set up a Swords Dance. The Tropius used Sunny Day to take advantage of his Chlorophyll ability, but I was still faster and one-shot this Tropius with the Slash. Skarmory took a couple of hits due to resisting Slash, but didn't deal any damage. Altaria and Pelipper both fainted to one Slash. Only 2 gym battles left, but the next one will be the hardest one for sure. At Mazdeep Gym, I taught Zangoose Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is a physical move in this generation, so I could take advantage of Zangoose's high attack stat. Then I challenged the gym leaders. I was able to one-shot the Xatu with Shadow Ball, but the Claydol landed a critical Earthquake on me. The next turn I one-shot the Lunatone with Shadow Ball. However, the Claydol kept doing a lot of damage with Earthquake. I switched my target to Claydol, and it barely lived a Shadow Ball. I got knocked out the following turn with a Flamethrower, and lost the fight. After the failed attempt, I switched Zangoose's held item to a Citrus Berry to help restore some HP. This time I started by using Swords Dance against the Xatu. I was worried about the Xatu using Confuse Ray, but luckily it used Psychic instead. Now that I was at +2 attack, I could comfortably one-shot our whole team with Shadow Ball, which I did. That is probably the hardest gym battle in this challenge, and it did take a few attempts. The Maxi double battle wasn't too bad. The camera kept using Amnesia, so I was able to set up 2 Swords Dances and sweep his entire team. I was worried about the Mightyana's because they do know Swagger, but the first Mightyana didn't use it, and the second Mightyana fell to 1 quick attack before it could even attack. Next was Seafloor Cavern, and the Archie fight went smoothly until Sharpedo. I had set up 1 Swords Dance against the Mightyana, and the Sharpedo used Swagger. I went for Slash, but I hit myself in confusion and did 100 damage of recoil to myself. If I hit myself again the following turn, I would lose the fight. I went for Quick Attack, and I snapped out of confusion after only 1 turn. The Quick Attack finished him off, and we won the final Team Aqua fight. Before fighting the final gym leader, I taught Zangoose Return. Return is a lot more powerful than Slash since Zangoose likely has max friendship at this point. I then used the newly learned Return to one-shot Juan's whole team. The Wally Fight was similar. All his Pokemon went down in 1 hit. Now we have all 8 gym badges without much trouble, but we'll see how difficult the Elite Four will be. Here's my final moveset before we challenge the Elite Four. I plan to mostly rely on Swords Dance in return, but Brick Break and Shadow Ball are still great type coverage. First was Sydney, and he started with Mightyana. I went for Brick Break, but the Mightyana barely lived and landed the Sand Attack. The following turn I used Swords Dance while Sydney healed. 1 more Brick Break knocked out the Mightyana. Next was Shiftry, and I missed my Brick Break attempt. The Shiftry used Swagger, and I hit myself from confusion 2 times in a row. The Shiftry used a couple of extra sensories, and I ultimately lost the fight. The second attempt went a lot smoother. I started with Swords Dance and the Mightyana used Sand Attack. However, I got really lucky and didn't miss a move despite the accuracy drop. I was able to sweep his entire team this time. Phoebe and Glacier were very similar fights. For Phoebe, I was able to one-shot all of her Pokemon except for Sableye. The Sableye used Double Team, but I was able to land my next attack and knock the Sableye out. The fight with Glacier was even easier. I was able to one-shot our whole team after using 1 Swords Dance against the lead Celio. 1 more Elite Four member left, and Drake starts with the Shelgon, a perfect Pokemon to use Swords Dance again. I used 1 Swords Dance and swept all of his Pokemon until his Ace Salamence. The Salamence had Intimidate, so I figured he would be able to live 1 attack from my Zangoose. I went for the return, but I ended up one-shotting the Salamence as well. Finally, we have to battle the champion, and I'm not expecting too much of a challenge considering how easy the Elite Four was. He starts with Wailord, and I set up 1 Swords Dance. A return the following turn slowly drains their Wailord's HP. Next was Tentacruel, who didn't get the chance to attack. Ludicolo was one-shot with return, as was Whiscash. Gyarados had Intimidate, so I wasn't sure if return would one-shot, but it still did. Finally was his ace, the Milotic. The Milotic, like the rest of his team, fell to 1 return. A very easy champion fight. But with that, we have completed Pokemon Emerald with only a Zangoose. Zangoose is way more powerful than I thought, as he is able to one-shot almost every Pokemon with just 1 Swords Dance. My final playtime was 10 hours and 23 minutes, which I think is decent. I didn't skip that many trainers, so I probably could have completed the game faster if I skipped some of them. Overall, a pretty seamless run, and I appreciate everyone taking the time to watch the video.